So you were writing this week on an interesting poll commissioned by City Age.
Yeah, it was a poll that was commissioned by City Age and conducted by Mustel Group, local market research company. And it was done, as you know, in conjunction with the conference that the Vancouver Sun was co-presenting with City Age last month, the next Metro Vancouver, as part of this ongoing series we're doing. And the poll was speaking with Metro Vancouver residents. And among the questions they asked, one of the ones that I thought was interesting was whether Vancouver, the brand of Vancouver, is on the upswing or the downswing. And what they found is that by about 2-1, most Metro Vancouver residents said that the Vancouver brand is on the downswing.
Wow. What do people understand that to mean, I guess? Because people don't necessarily think of cities as having brands, right?
Sure. I think, yeah, that's a good question. And I don't know, I don't believe the poll question goes into detail about what the brand means. The poll question was, do you think the Vancouver brand is on the upswing or downswing? So, I mean, different people or people who are in the business of placemaking or place branding might have different opinions about this. And for the column, I spoke with some people who are in that business. But yeah, this is just, regular sort of people. Residents of Metro Vancouver. It was weighted for, based on the StatsCan kind of census based on gender, age, geographical distribution, ethnic background. And so it was kind of weighted. But these are kind of, quote unquote, average Metro Vancouver residents. It wasn't like a panel of branding experts. The way they feel about it.
What did those experts, though, say to you about what that means or what that could mean?
Sorry, what did the branding experts say?
Yeah.
So I spoke with Chris Fair, who's the CEO of Resonance Consultancy, which is an organization that specifically focuses on this kind of idea of place branding and placemaking. And they publish an annual report about the world's best cities that looks at a whole bunch of different metrics. They survey tens of thousands of households in 30 different countries. They've got offices in different cities and different continents. And I mean, they obviously it's their business, so they're trying to promote the idea that a city's brand is valuable. He quoted a recent study by Bloom Consulting in Europe that estimated that about a quarter of a city's GDP is attributable to its brand and how it's perceived. So they're trying to say that a city's brand is important. This is how we attract investment, tourism, people, talent. And these things are really important for the local economy. Anyway, Chris Fair, the CEO of Resonance, what he was saying is that generally speaking, the perception of Vancouver and its brand globally has actually been stronger than what he called its actual performance warrants. So in other words, like he said, the lived experience for people in Vancouver doesn't really live up to how Vancouver is perceived around the world. So we do still have a strong brand around the world, according to Resonance. He said, the challenges that Vancouverites are perceiving, Metro residents, aren't really impacting how the city is perceived globally, at least not yet. He said that can happen. One of the interesting comments he had was that sometimes there can be a lag. A city, local residents, a region, its local residents might be feeling frustrations or a sense of malaise, but it doesn't really reflect in the global perception immediately, although it may eventually in the future. And then conversely, he was saying that the opposite can be true. He said his organization is doing some work with Baltimore in Maryland in the US, a city that he says, its outside perception is not strong. People think of it as a lot of crime, a lot of problems, urban blight. He said, if you go, I've never been to Baltimore. He said, if you go to Baltimore right now on the ground, it's different than its outside perception. And it's really kind of vibrant and it's changing and it's evolving, but it will take a little while for that external perception to catch up.
Right. Interesting. Well, that's very interesting. Well, what can we do then? I mean, I know as part of our next Metro Vancouver series and some of the stories we're going to be telling in the coming weeks, we're trying to encourage discussion around some of the big ideas that might help shape the region going forward. Can a city rejuvenate its brand?
I mean, I think the answer is yeah, it's certainly possible. Cities can and do, improve their brands. The question of how to do it and who's responsible, who should be doing it, that's a tricky one. I didn't really tackle that question yet in this column, but I do think it's worth looking at. And when I was speaking with Miro Cernettage, the CEO of City Age, former Vancouver Sun columnist, he was saying, he thinks it's natural that cities do go through cycles. They go up and down, and their fortunes can change depending on a variety of factors, right? And he's seen it himself. He came here in 1986, moved here from Ontario specifically to cover Expo 86 as a journalist for the Sun. And so he saw the boom that followed Expo, and then he saw the boom that kind of led up to and followed the Olympics. Obviously at a time like the 2007-8 financial crisis, a lot of places around the world were struggling. Vancouver was to some degree maybe kind of inoculated from some of those challenges because there was so much going on in the lead up to the Olympics. And then the Olympics, early on in the Olympics, it was hard to say if it was going to be a success or not. I think the opinion was pretty divided. There was a lot of cynicism and pessimism, and by the end of it, a lot of the cynics, I think, had been converted that this seemed kind of positive. And then there was, unlike a lot of Olympic cities, there was a pretty positive, lasting legacy. If you look back over decades and decades, the Olympics didn't always have such a positive, lasting legacy as it has for Vancouver, where we got lasting benefits for
we got the Canada line to the airport. We got
line to the airport
Sky expansion. We got the Oval in Richmond. Now is a very active community facility, and among other things. Yeah. Olympic
Village was turned from like a post-industrial bunch of gravel lots and empty warehouses into a new, vibrant neighborhood. And so there are some positive, long-lasting benefits for regular people. Now, obviously, the legacy of the Vancouver Olympics is not, not everyone agrees that it was great, but we were kind of riding a high for a while. And of course, some people might point to some of the challenges now. You look at the City Age Mustel Group poll, top of the number one roadblock that people identify for a better quality of life is the cost of living. Number two roadblock is the housing affordability. Won't be a surprise to most people that these were the top challenges noted, and some people could point to the Olympics and all of the international attention that brought. It brought a lot of people from around the world here. It brought a lot of investment, and that could be seen as contributing to driving up the price of housing, making things harder for people on more modest incomes to try to get by. So all of these things are related.
Well, and then of course next year we have the FIFA World Cup coming to Vancouver, which will bring some eyeballs to the city. Now, not the same infrastructure legacy, so I guess it remains to be seen whether an event like that could give the city a brand boost.
Yeah, and I mean, some people are certainly optimistic. The mayor of Vancouver, Ken Sim, who, not surprisingly, considering his role, is a big booster of Vancouver. And, to be clear, all the people we talked to, Miro from City Age and Evie from Mustel Group, these people all love Vancouver and think it has a lot of potential, but different opinions about the trajectory we're on currently. But Ken Sim, who, is saying he thinks Vancouver's brand is on the upswing. It's doing way better now than it was a couple of years ago when he was elected. He says it's on the upswing. We've got a lot going on. We've hosted some big events, and he's very excited about the FIFA World Cup. Vancouver will be hosting 7 games, which is more than a lot of the other host cities. But of course, unlike the Olympics, the Olympics, we were the host city. This time we're going to be one of 16 host cities. So it's a little bit different
across 3 countries. Yes.
Across 3 countries. Yeah. But, we're hosting 7 games, and there'll be at least, there's going to be some, obviously, I think there'll be a significant influx of tourism. And I think, the idea is that events like this, international events like this, can serve as a sort of advertisement to the world for Vancouver and what we have to offer. So, Sim and a lot of people are quite bullish about FIFA and what it will bring longer term. And that can help contribute to the city being on the upswing into the future.
All right. Well, let's hope we can get back on the upswing. All right. Thanks, Dan.
Great. Thanks, Harold. Thank you.